They will not value you until they have no choice. Power in this world is never handed over freely. It is seized, gripped, and fortified. Once you take it, you guard it with the cold precision of a king who knows betrayal is inevitable. Most people, they spend their lives begging for approval, bending for scraps of attention, and in doing so, they teach the world to treat them like dust beneath its feet. You will not be most people. You will learn the 10 strategies to make them need you, to make them fear losing you. This is not kindness. This is not playing nice. This is survival, distilled to its purest, most ruthless form. Comment this now. I am the storm they can't replace. Etch it into your mind, because from this moment on, you will not be touched. You will not be ignored. You will become irreplaceable, and it begins here. Number 1. Control the frame. They see the world through a frame, a mental lens that tells them what's important, who's powerful, and who's irrelevant. If you don't control that frame, you are trapped inside theirs, playing by their rules. A Machiavellian mind never accepts the default reality. It bends perception until others believe what you want them to believe. Control the conversation, and you control the narrative. Control the narrative, and you control them. When you walk into a room, you decide what matters. You set the tone, you decide the pace, and you never ever let anyone dictate the ground you stand on. The weak seek validation. The strong define reality. Remember this. Influence doesn't come from shouting louder. It comes from making others think your way is the only way. Comment this now. I set the frame. I rule the game. Your presence should not just be noticed. It should be believed in. And belief is the sharpest blade in power's arsenal. Number 2. The power of absence. Silence is not weakness. It is the art of creating demand. When you are everywhere, you become common. When you are rare, you become priceless. The masses cling to constant presence because they fear being forgotten. But in that desperation, they erase their own value. A mind trained in power understands the inverse truth. Scarcity is magnetic. Absence forces their thoughts to orbit you. It plants the seed of longing and waters it with uncertainty. They start asking, where is he? What is he doing? Who is he with? That mental unrest works for you while you do nothing at all. Never confuse absence with neglect. One is power, the other is weakness. Your withdrawal must be deliberate, timed like a calculated strike. Step back when you are at your peak in their mind, so the last image they hold is one of strength, control, and unshakable composure. This is not running away, it's pulling the rug out from under their emotional stability. Your absence should feel like oxygen leaving the room. Sudden, undeniable, and impossible to ignore. And the longer they go without it, the more they will crave the return. This is how curiosity mutates into need, and need transforms into influence. Comment this now. My absence is my weapon. Because once they taste the void you leave behind, they will understand. You are not just someone to be wanted. You are someone to be feared losing. Number 3. Strategic unpredictability. Predictability is comfort, and comfort is the death of respect. Once people can read you, once they know where you'll be, what you'll say, how you'll react, you are no longer a player in the game. You are a piece on their board. You are owned. A man of power understands this fundamental truth. Mystery is leverage. Your unpredictability keeps people alert. It forces them to consider you before they make a move. It implants a quiet unease in their minds, a constant question, what will he do next? And that question is the leash. When they're guessing, you're winning. This is not about being erratic for the sake of drama. Wildness without purpose is chaos, and chaos without direction is weakness. Strategic unpredictability is an art. It's calculated, deliberate, and designed to keep others off balance, just enough that they never feel secure in their assumptions about you. The Machiavellian understands that power thrives in uncertainty. Your allies respect you more when they don't feel they have total access to your intentions. Your enemies fear you more when they can't predict your counterattack. And the crowd, the masses, will be drawn to you like moths to flame because mystery is intoxicating. Think about it. The most dangerous predators in nature don't telegraph their strikes. They stalk in silence, disappear into the shadows, and appear only at the moment of impact. Humans are no different. If you reveal every move before it's made, you give them time to prepare. You hand them the antidote before they've even tasted the poison. Here's the truth most people are too soft to face. When you are predictable, you become a tool. They use you when they want. They put you away when they're done. But when you are unpredictable, you become a threat. And threats command caution, attention, and respect. So how do you cultivate this? First, break your own patterns. If you always respond immediately to messages, stop. If you always attend the same events, skip one. If you always agree when someone asks for your time, decline. Small disruptions signal that you're not on anyone's schedule but your own. They make people realize they can't map you out. Second, control your reveals. Never show your full hand. In conversation, in negotiation, in relationships. Let them see only fragments of your thinking. Answer a question with another question. Share just enough to keep them leaning in, but not enough to give them a blueprint of your mind. The less they know, the more they imagine. And imagination can make you larger, more formidable, more untouchable than reality ever could. Third, shift your emotional tempo. The world expects consistency. The same smile, the same energy, the same rhythm. Break it. Be warm one day, cold the next. Silent in one meeting, razor sharp in another. Not so drastically that you seem unstable, but enough that no one can get comfortable thinking they've figured you out. Fourth, never telegraph your limits. When they believe they know exactly what you will and will not tolerate, they begin to push right up to the line. Hide your thresholds. Sometimes enforce ruthlessly. Sometimes let something slide. Not because you've gone soft, but because you're building unpredictability into their calculations. Keep them wondering if the next step they take will be their last with you. Strategic unpredictability is not about pushing people away. It's about pulling them in deeper by never letting them hold the full map to you. It's about staying one move ahead, always. You become like a shadow in the corner of the room, seen, felt, but impossible to grasp fully. When people can't predict you, they can't control you. And when they can't control you, they either submit to your influence or they plot against you. And here's the part the weak will never understand. Both outcomes are advantageous. Submission gives you direct control. Opposition gives you the advantage of being underestimated by those who think they can figure you out. The greatest strategists in history, from Sun Tzu to Machiavelli, all understood the same principle. Never be entirely knowable. The moment they think they've mapped your mind, you change the terrain. If they think you'll retreat, you advance. If they expect kindness, you deliver cold steel. If they prepare for war, you appear with an offer of peace. And when they relax, you strike. There is a psychological current here most will miss. Uncertainty breeds focus. When people don't know what to expect from you, they watch you closer. They hang on your words. They replay your actions in their minds. In doing so, they give you space in their thoughts without you even asking for it. That is rent-free real estate in the most valuable territory there is, their mind. This also applies to your personal image. Change your appearance slightly at calculated intervals. Subtle shifts in style, grooming, or demeanor make people recalibrate how they see you. They start asking questions, even if silently. Is he changing? Is he evolving? Is he becoming something I haven't accounted for? That constant reevaluation keeps you relevant and sharp in their perception. But here's your warning. Unpredictability without stability beneath it is suicide. You must have a strong foundation of discipline, competence, and self-control. Otherwise, you're just a reckless man stumbling through games he doesn't understand. The power of unpredictability comes only when it's anchored in mastery. Remember this: you are not here to be understood completely. You are here to be respected, feared, and desired in equal measure. Predictable men get categorized and forgotten. Unpredictable men get studied, and studied men are remembered. So move in silence, speak with intent, change your pace, break patterns. Leave a trail that curves where they expect it to be straight. Let them think they're getting closer to understanding you, then pull away just enough to keep them chasing. And when the moment comes to act, when it's time to strike, negotiate, or dominate, you do so in a way they never saw coming. That's the essence of cold power. The blade hidden until the exact moment it's needed and then drawn without hesitation. Comment this now: my moves are my mystery. Because once you master unpredictability, you stop playing in their world and they start playing in yours. Number 4, controlled detachment. Attachment is the chain that drags men into weakness. It is the invisible rope you wrap around your own neck, tightening with every ounce of emotional dependence you give away. The world teaches you to cling. Cling to people, cling to titles, cling to approval. But the harder you cling, the more you signal dependence. And dependence is blood in the water. Predators smell it. Opportunists exploit it. Cold power begins where attachment ends. Controlled detachment is not the absence of care. It is the mastery of choice. It is the ability to sever ties without hesitation when those ties no longer serve your advancement, your position, or your survival. The masses confuse this with heartlessness. They call it cold, and they are right, because it must be cold. Steel does not bend to warmth. Understand this. If your identity is built on someone else's approval, you have already lost the game. If your happiness is chained to a specific outcome, you have already surrendered the power to decide how you feel. A Machiavellian mind treats everything, relationships, opportunities, alliances, as assets. You invest in them, you grow them, you protect them while they produce value. And when they rot, you cut them loose without nostalgia. This is not cruelty. This is clarity. When emotion governs your choices, you become a puppet. Strings are pulled by those who know how to manipulate your fear of loss. When discipline governs your choices, you hold the throne. And here's the truth the weak never want to face. The man who can walk away holds infinitely more leverage than the man who must stay. Controlled detachment is not an act. It's not pretending not to care while secretly begging for attention. It's a deep, unshakable knowing that you are in this world by choice, not by need. It's visible in your posture, straight, unhurried, never leaning forward as if grasping for validation. It's in your eyes, present but never pleading. It's in your speech, calm, concise, never spilling more words than required to make your point. Detachment shifts the balance of power instantly. Think about negotiation. The person who needs the deal will compromise until they bleed. The one who can walk away forces the other side to bend. The same is true in relationships. If they know you will tolerate anything just to keep them, they will test you, push you, and eventually discard you. But if they feel deep in their bones that you can vanish without breaking stride, they will handle you like a priceless artifact. The art here is subtle. Controlled detachment does not mean avoiding connection. It does not mean living without loyalty, without care, without bonds. It means you are capable of connection without losing your center of gravity. You can love deeply, but you never surrender the ability to protect your own throne. You can build alliances, but you always maintain the option to dissolve them without collapsing yourself. When you are detached, you become harder to control. No one can dangle a threat of abandonment over you. No one can tempt you into rash action with a promise of acceptance. You are anchored in yourself, and every connection in your life exists on terms that you dictate. That is not arrogance. That is the foundation of sovereignty. But here's what most people miss. Detachment is not a one-time decision. It is a discipline you sharpen daily. You must practice it in small ways before you can wield it in large ones. Decline an invitation you don't care for, even if it's from someone you admire. Refuse to reply instantly to a message when you're not ready, no matter who it's from. Keep certain plans to yourself, even if you're tempted to share them for validation. These are not games. They are micro-reinforcements of the fact that your life is under your command. The more you live this way, the more people sense it. They may not be able to explain it, but they feel it. They notice you are never frantic, never desperate, never chasing. You attract instead of pursue. You invite instead of plead. You listen without rushing to speak because you are not performing for their approval. Detachment is also protection against manipulation. Emotional manipulators feed on attachment. The more invested you are, the easier you are to guilt, to shame, to push into compliance. But if you can detach, their tools become useless. They pull the string and nothing moves. They press the button and nothing happens. And that moment, the moment they realize you cannot be controlled, is when the power shifts entirely to your side. One of the deepest expressions of controlled detachment is walking away at your peak. This means leaving before they expect you to, before you've been devalued, before they've had a chance to take you for granted. You step back when your image is still burning bright in their mind, when their last memory of you is one of strength, control, and self-sufficiency. That exit echoes far louder than overstaying until they no longer care. You will face resistance when you live this way. People will accuse you of being cold, of being selfish, of not caring enough. What they're really saying is that they can't control you, and that unsettles them. Good. Unsettle them. Because those who are truly worthy of being in your life will not need you to be chained to them to feel secure. They will respect your autonomy. They will know that you choose to be with them, not because you have to, but because you want to. That is the highest form of connection. But never forget, detachment is a blade, not a shield. It's not for hiding from intimacy. It's for cutting away the decay that threatens your sovereignty. It's a tool you use to keep your empire clean, your circle tight, and your focus undiluted. And here's the paradox. The more detached you are, the more magnetic you become. People are drawn to what they cannot fully possess. They chase what feels scarce. They respect what does not need them. This is why the most desired men are never the most available. They are selective, and that selection process is built on the foundation of detachment. Controlled detachment is the silent message you send into every room. I am whole without you. I am here because I choose to be. And if the balance shifts, I can vanish without leaving a piece of myself behind. That message forces people to treat you differently. They measure their words. They value your time. They protect their position with you because they know it can be lost. So live like this. Train it into your core. Practice the small withdrawals until the large ones feel natural. Stand in the knowledge that nothing outside of you defines you. Not the praise, not the recognition, not the approval, and certainly not the presence of any single person. Love when it serves you. Work when it builds you. Walk away when it doesn't. And never apologize for protecting your autonomy. Comment this now. I can walk away at any time. Because once you truly can, you will discover the quiet, unshakable leverage that only comes from knowing they can never own you. Number 5, command of resources. Power does not survive on charisma alone. Charm can open doors, but it cannot hold them open forever. True power, the kind that endures storms and outlasts enemies, is fed, fortified, and weaponized by resources. And in the Machiavellian sense, resources are not limited to gold or currency. They are anything that grants you leverage. Money is one resource, and a vital one, but far from the only one. Information, alliances, influence, skills, reputation, territory, access, favors owed. These are resources, each with its own weight in the balance of power. And here is the unspoken law. The man who commands resources controls the battlefield, often without stepping onto it. Most men starve for power because they misjudge what resources truly are. They think the game is won by a number in a bank account, but money without influence is just digits on a screen. A man with no cash but a mind full of high-value intelligence can cripple a wealthy rival overnight. A man with no gold but loyal allies in key positions can outmaneuver someone 10 times richer. The truly untouchable think in terms of total resource ecosystems. They understand that wealth is not a single tree. It is an entire forest, each branch feeding the others. They collect favors like coins, guard secrets like treasure, and develop skills like weapons. And they keep these resources in a state of constant readiness, ready to deploy, ready to trade, ready to threaten. Command of resources starts with acquisition. You must hunt relentlessly for value, but you do not hunt aimlessly. You acquire with purpose. Your learning is not random consumption, it is targeted weaponization. A skill is a blade. Knowledge is a lockpick. An introduction to the right person is a bridge over a fortress wall. Every new piece you gain should fit into the grand architecture of your power. This means you read what others avoid. You study what most dismiss. You invest in tools, systems, and structures that make you more dangerous over time. You sharpen your public image while also building a shadow network beneath it. You become both the man they see and the man they don't see. Allies are resources, but only if you choose them carefully. A contact who will risk something for you is worth more than 10 friends who will only watch when you fall. You cultivate these alliances with precision, offer value before you need value, bind them with mutual benefit, and keep those bonds alive without suffocating them. Information is a resource that most men underestimate until it's too late. Knowledge of your competitor's weakness, insight into your rival's true motives, awareness of timing before it becomes public. In the right hands, information is a lever that moves mountains. But here's the key. Information is worth more when others do not know you have it. Keep your ears open, your mouth closed, and your archives growing. Once acquired, resources must be protected. Power is not in the possession of resources. It's in the disciplined management of them. Never reveal the full scope of what you have. This is one of the core Machiavellian rules. Conceal capacity. If they see the whole of your wealth, they will scheme to diminish it. If they know the breadth of your alliances, they will attempt to corrupt or isolate them. If they sense the extent of your influence, they will unite to break it. You show just enough to make them respect you, just enough to make them cautious, but never enough to allow them to fully prepare for you. This is why you keep reserves. In war, in politics, in personal conflict. Reserves of money, reserves of energy, reserves of allies you haven't yet called on. So when they think they have cornered you, you reveal a new asset they never accounted for. That is how wars are won without battles. Leverage is the art of making your resources work for you without depleting them unnecessarily. A man who spends recklessly, whether it's money, influence, or goodwill, will quickly find himself powerless. You do not waste a contact's favor on something petty. You do not burn an alliance for a temporary win. You do not drain your bank to win a single round when the war requires multiple campaigns. This is long-game thinking. Every resource has a cost to use, and the more precious the resource, the more carefully you must calculate that cost. When you deploy it, it should create a ripple effect of advantage, not just a momentary victory. And remember, resources are not just for survival, they are for shaping reality. The man who controls resources doesn't just react to the world, he sculpts it. He funds the ideas he wants to see rise. He withdraws support from the ones he wants to see fall. He elevates allies into positions of influence, creating a web of loyalty that spans far beyond his direct presence. This is why you must build multiple forms of wealth. Yes, financial capital, but also social capital, informational capital, intellectual capital, and positional capital. The more layers you control, the harder it is for anyone to remove you. Cut off a man's money and he may fall. But cut off a man who still has influence, allies, and secrets, and he will simply rebuild, often faster and stronger than before. Here is a truth most men can't stomach. Your resources are useless if they are static. They must be dynamic, moving, compounding. A contact introduced to another contact creates a new bond you can influence. A small piece of intel shared with the right person at the right moment can create a debt that will be repaid in ways far greater than the original cost. Resources are also weapons of intimidation. When your adversary knows or suspects that you have more at your disposal than they can measure, they hesitate. They become cautious. And in that hesitation, you maneuver. Your resources create an aura, an unspoken message. I can reach further than you think. I can last longer than you expect. I can hit harder than you're prepared for. But here's the paradox. You must never allow your resources to own you. Too many men amass wealth or connections only to become enslaved by them. They fear losing what they have so much that they stop using it. That is not command, that is captivity. True command is the ability to deploy a resource with precision, knowing you can replace it or adapt without it. Guard your resources like a vault. Grow them like an empire. Use them like a scalpel, not a hammer. And never let the world see all the gold you've buried beneath the surface. Comment this now. I own the tools of power, and mean it, because when you truly do, you no longer fight for position. You decide who gets to have one. Number 6, mastery of perception. Power is not just what you are, it's what they believe you are. The battlefield is not only fought in boardrooms, backrooms, streets, or war councils. It's fought in the minds of those who see you, hear of you, and speak your name when you're not in the room. The Machiavellian understands this better than anyone. Perception is currency, and like any currency, it can be inflated, devalued, counterfeited, or multiplied at will. Most men live under the delusion that, if I just work hard, if I just am good enough, people will see it. They won't. The truth is brutal. If you don't control how you are perceived, someone else will do it for you, and they will do it to serve their interest, not yours. The man who masters perception is dangerous because he fights wars without showing his blade. His enemies move cautiously, his allies stay loyal, and the masses lean forward to listen when he speaks. Not because they know him, but because they think they know him. And that distinction is where the real control lies. A strong perception gives you leverage before you even open your mouth. It makes strangers grant you the benefit of the doubt. It tilts negotiations before they begin. It makes the thought of crossing you expensive. Your reputation becomes your most mobile army. It enters rooms before you do, whispers in ears while you sleep, and lingers in conversations long after you've left. But here's where most people fail. They let perception grow wild. They hope people see them as competent, trustworthy, intelligent. Hope is for the weak. Perception must be crafted. Like an architect designing a fortress, you build it brick by brick. Each public appearance, each interaction, each visual detail feeding into the image you want, burned into their minds. The first principle of perception mastery is consistency in what you reveal. If you are building a reputation for precision, never be sloppy. If you want to be seen as disciplined, never let them catch you looking disorganized or unprepared. If you're cultivating an aura of ruthlessness, you don't let your emotions spill uncontrolled in public. A single breach of consistency can undo years of work, and in the game of power that's unacceptable. But consistency alone is not enough. You must blend it with strategic ambiguity. Too much transparency kills mystique. Too much predictability kills intrigue. If they think they can fully map you, they stop fearing you. If they believe they have figured you out, they'll begin strategizing against you. The solution: give them enough to form an image, but never enough to confirm it. This is why Machiavellian operators reveal parts of themselves in fragments, a display of competence here, a hint of mystery there. Let them fill in the gaps with their own imagination. And remember this: the human mind fears what it cannot define. Control of perception is not passive. It requires active manipulation of what you show and what you withhold. The way you dress, the way you speak, the timing of your responses, the company you keep. All of it sends signals. Most men send them by accident. You will send them with intent. And the beauty of perception control is that it works on multiple fronts. It affects how your rivals position themselves against you. It affects how allies prioritize you. It even affects how strangers treat you in a first encounter. If they've heard of you before meeting you, you are already working from an advantage or disadvantage depending on what's been circulating. Which brings us to the inevitable: attacks on your perception. They will come. And when they do, you do not panic. You respond with calculated force. If the attack is small and inconsequential, you let it die on its own. Engaging would give it oxygen. If the attack threatens to spread or damage your influence, you crush it publicly and decisively, making an example out of the aggressor so others think twice before attempting the same. Understand this: perception can be weaponized both offensively and defensively. Offensively, you can let whispers of your capabilities, your reach, or your ruthlessness circulate among the right ears. Let your reputation do the intimidation before the conflict even begins. Defensively, you can maintain such a stable and respected public image that any accusation against you sounds absurd before it's even investigated. You must also learn the art of controlled self-mythology. This doesn't mean lying about who you are. It means amplifying the parts of yourself that strengthen your position. Great leaders, conquerors, and tacticians throughout history understood this. Alexander the Great spread tales of his divine favor. Napoleon cultivated the image of the untouchable strategist. Whether or not every detail was true didn't matter. What mattered was that people believed, and belief bends reality. A man with power who looks powerless is vulnerable. A man with nothing who appears untouchable can survive far longer than logic says he should. If they believe you're unbeatable, they'll act as if you are, often giving you the exact openings you need to make it true. This mastery of perception even applies to silence. Sometimes, saying nothing builds more power than speaking. Silence forces people to interpret your thoughts on their own, often projecting their fears or hopes onto you. This is why the Machiavellian doesn't rush to explain himself. Explanations invite doubt. Silence invites speculation, and speculation is far more dangerous to your enemies than facts. One of the most subtle yet powerful tactics is shaping third-party perception, influencing how others talk about you when you're not around. This is done through consistent demonstration of value and carefully placed narratives. Make sure the right people have stories to tell about you, stories that align with your chosen image. When you're absent, those stories become your ambassadors. But remember, perception control is not about vanity. It's about power. It's about owning the lens through which people view you so that their actions toward you are influenced before they even speak to you. When you control perception, you don't need to force people to obey. They will obey because their belief in who you are compels them to. In the end, mastery of perception means you dictate the story. And in a world where stories move faster than facts, the man who controls the story controls the people. Comment this now. I shape what they see, because once you do, the game changes, not just in your favor, but entirely under your authorship. Number 7, psychological distance. Closeness is comfort, and comfort kills respect. If they can reach you too easily, they will touch you carelessly. If they can predict your every response, they will stop valuing your presence. Psychological distance is the art of maintaining a gap between who you are and what they can access, a gap that forces them to reach for you, think about you, and work to get to you. This is not arrogance. This is not aloofness for its own sake. It is a deliberate tactical separation between your value and their access to it. People chase what feels slightly out of reach. They cherish what they had to work for, and they protect what they had to fight for. The weak man floods the market with his presence. He answers instantly, agrees to every meeting, makes himself perpetually available. And in doing so, he tells the world, "My time is cheap. My attention is endless. My value is negotiable." But the man who understands psychological distance makes himself scarce without disappearing. He gives enough to stay relevant, but not enough to become common. Distance creates curiosity. It makes them replay your last words in their mind, wondering what you meant. It makes them wait for your reply, valuing it more when it finally comes. It keeps them slightly off balance, never fully certain where they stand with you, never confident they've completely got you. This is why kings had thrones, not chairs in the crowd. Why generals stayed behind the lines until the decisive moment. Why the most dangerous predators are seen only in glimpses before they strike. Psychological distance is not absence. It's controlled proximity, close enough to influence, far enough to be untouchable. The key is balance. Too much distance and they forget you. Too little and they take you for granted. The sweet spot is where they are constantly aware of you but never saturated with you. That's when every interaction feels significant. Comment this now. They earn my presence. Because when they do, they'll value every second of it like it's the last they'll get. Number 8, the calculated display of power. Power that is flaunted constantly becomes noise. Power that is never shown becomes myth with no teeth. The true tactician understands that the greatest impact comes from timing, knowing when to let strength sleep beneath the surface and when to bring it crashing down like a hammer. The calculated display of power is not a habit. It is a performance, a strike of lightning, sudden, blinding, and unforgettable. The world is full of men who mistake constant flexing for strength. They brag about their influence, parade their possessions, remind everyone of their connections, until it all becomes predictable, unimpressive, and cheap. This is the equivalent of a soldier firing all his bullets into the air to look intimidating, loud for a moment, but ultimately harmless. Constant display without precision only dulls the blade. On the other end of the spectrum are those who keep their power completely hidden. They move in silence, but their silence is indistinguishable from weakness. Their enemies don't fear them because there's no proof they can strike. They're like a sword still sheathed, beautiful in theory, but untested in battle. And in the Machiavellian game, untested power is no power at all. The secret is balance. Show enough to remind them you are dangerous. Hide enough so they are never certain of the full extent. This is why kings would display their armies during parades, not because they wanted war that day, but because they wanted the memory of their capability to live in the minds of friend and foe alike. That is what the calculated display of power does. It plants an image so vivid it shapes behavior long after the moment has passed. Your influence, your reach, your resources, these are weapons. If you keep them locked away forever, no one will respect them. But if you throw them around recklessly, no one will respect you. Power must be revealed strategically, at precise moments, for maximum psychological effect. Here's how it works. You let them underestimate you long enough for comfort to set in. You let them think they can move freely in your space. And then, at the exact moment they're most sure of their position, you reveal a capability they never calculated for. It could be knowledge they didn't know you had. Connections they didn't know you could call upon. Resources they didn't know you could deploy. The shock is not just in your action, it's in the gap between their expectation and the reality you unleash. That gap is where fear is born. Fear, in this sense, is not panic. It is recalibration. When someone suddenly realizes they've misjudged you, they redraw the map of their interactions with you. They tread more carefully. They respect your boundaries without you having to constantly enforce them. That's the beauty of a well-timed display. It prevents 100 future challenges. But make no mistake, this is not about humiliating others for sport. If you burn every bridge, you'll eventually find yourself on an island. A calculated display is about reinforcing boundaries, resetting respect, and reminding anyone watching exactly who they're dealing with. It's a deterrent, not a tantrum. The key is control. If your show of power is fueled by emotion, it will be sloppy, reactive, and obvious. They will smell insecurity instead of dominance. You must act with calm precision, as if every move was part of a pre-written script. A display done right leaves them wondering if you planned it weeks in advance, and often you did. Think of your power as fire. Too much, and you burn your own house down. Too little, and they think the fire's gone out. The flame must be tended quietly until the exact moment you want to show its heat. That moment should be sharp, decisive, and undeniable. Examples? A rival questions your competence in front of others. You don't argue. You don't raise your voice. Instead, you dismantle their position with a single fact, a single piece of evidence, or a single connection that reveals the absurdity of their challenge. One move, no wasted motion, and the room remembers. Or perhaps someone attempts to block you from a deal, believing you lack the influence to bypass them. You let them think they've succeeded, and then, through an unexpected channel, the deal is secured anyway, leaving them with the quiet realization that your reach extends far beyond their line of sight. You don't gloat, you don't rub it in, you let them tell the story to others, because nothing travels faster than a lesson learned the hard way. Another example. You've been silent in a negotiation, letting others speak, letting them underestimate your role. At the final moment, you present terms that not only resolve the conflict in your favor, but also reveal that you've been aware of every angle from the start. The surprise isn't just in your move, it's in the revelation that you were always in control. A calculated display should be rare enough to be remembered. If you show your full strength every week, it becomes routine. If you do it twice a year, it becomes legend. The rarity is what amplifies its impact. People start to think, if this is what he shows us occasionally, what is he capable of when we're not looking? That question alone can be enough to stop them from crossing certain lines. The aftermath of a display is as important as the display itself. You do not bask in applause. You do not explain yourself. You let the silence after your action do the talking. That silence is where minds replay what just happened, where they magnify it in their own imagination, and where your legend grows. And here's the deeper layer. The calculated display is not only for your enemies, it's for your allies too. Allies who never see your strength may lose faith in your ability to lead. A precise, strategic show of power reminds them that they are aligned with someone capable, someone who will not crumble when the pressure comes. It strengthens loyalty. This strategy also keeps opportunists in check. Those who orbit you for their own gain are less likely to test your patience if they've witnessed, or even heard stories of, the times you've made examples of others. Fear is not the foundation of all loyalty, but it is a solid insurance policy. Above all, the calculated display is a message. It says, I am not to be underestimated. I am not to be provoked lightly. I am not to be forgotten. It is the difference between being just another player and being a presence they measure themselves against. Remember, you are not here to be impressive every day. You are here to be unforgettable when it matters. That is how kings rule without constantly drawing their sword. That is how predators keep entire forests silent at night. Number 9. Irreplaceability. The end game of power is not to be liked. It's to be needed. When they need you, you are no longer optional. You are the lock, and they have no other key. That is irreplaceability, the highest form of dominance. Every strategy before this feeds into it. You control the frame, wield absence, move unpredictably, detach when necessary, command resources, master perception, maintain distance, and display power with precision. Over time, this forges a truth in their mind. You can't be replaced. You get here by delivering value no one else can match. Skills, insight, access, stability. Every interaction proves that removing you would weaken them. Eventually, they stop even trying to imagine life without you. That's when you own the position. But here's the warning. Never grow dependent on the position itself. Stay detached. Keep your leverage. The moment you believe they can't replace you, they'll find a way. Comment, I am the one they can't replace, and I want the series. Like, subscribe, turn on notifications. Watch the video in the end screen. It will sharpen this lesson even further.